Little secret about me is I love to read books, if you haven't figured that out yet. I get this question a lot. What books do I read? Why do I read them? What's the best way to read books? So what I want to share with you today is going to be what books are best to read. More importantly, at what point in your life do you read them? And even more beyond that, how can you read them in a way that's actually applicable? Because I'm sure you may have heard that a lot with reading books. Should I read books really fast? Should I buy this other service that helps me read books really fast? Are reading books really fast not a smart idea because you don't retain everything? How much should I be reading in order to apply what I'm reading in life? So this way that the books actually are worth something. So I'm going to share with you that information as well. So this is my bookshelf. I actually organize my books by more of like categories. So for example, these are books all about sales, right here. These are books all about operations and building the company. These are all books about really how to grow your vision, to make your vision larger, because that's usually where we'll limit ourselves, is how big can you actually think. Over here, these are all books about being a CEO and growing as a CEO. These are books I'm currently reading, and things I like to do is, so if you notice over here, you can check this out. All my bookmarks are $2 bills, right? All right here, these are all real $2 bills. Similar to my tattoo, if you guys haven't seen that, it's just like stack of books, laptop, $2 bills. Down here, these are all books that I've recently read. And then all of these down here are books that I'm interested in certain topics, more about the human and the mind, the way people interact. I just am not prioritizing them right now. So I want to share with you a few of the books that I've read at different seasons of my life. And before I do that, the concept that applies to any book that you read is going to be how fast do you read it. I personally believe that this applies to every type of book. And when you are reading, it's not so much how fast you read as much as it is understanding you're not going to remember everything in that book, nor will you be able to apply every single thing in any book that you read. That's like watching a movie and then being frustrated that you couldn't memorize every single line out of the movie. The logic doesn't line up. So just as well as if you watch that movie 10 years ago, 10 years later, that movie may not hold up well over time. And that could be because you have changed as an individual. So things you used to think were funny are not funny. Things you used to be scared of aren't scary anymore. Things that never bothered you before now bother you because you have now 10 years worth of different traumas you've accumulated, right? So books are the same thing. I could pick up and read The Vision-Driven Leader today, and this book, I could read it 10 years later and it will mean something entirely different to me, because I have now grown as a person. So it's important to understand that when you read a book, I like to read it in good chunks, usually like an hour a day, which for me, that's gonna be like 20 pages or so. Everybody reads at a different pace. But usually between 10 and 20 pages is enough for me to gain enough information to where I can like remember things and actually reflect on it. Not always apply, but reflect on what I read and sometimes apply. Usually if I read more than that because I'm really enjoying the book and I keep going, what ends up happening is I just don't remember a lot of it. I'm not reading to get through a book, I'm reading because I enjoy it, but if I read too much at a time, I just actually don't retain nearly as much information. But if you actually look at a book, which, you know, here's a book, we're not gonna go over this one today, but it is a good one. John Dewar, Measure What Matters. It's a book about operations, OKRs. But essentially what I wanna show you here is in this book, you'll notice this book has roughly 263 pages in it, okay? So let's just say the book had 300 pages in it. This is why reading books is really so easy and why you can read 2 to 3 books a month, which would be anywhere from 12 to 24 books a year, by simply reading 10 pages a day. That's it, because there's 30 days in a month. So if I were to read 10 pages in the morning, which would take me about 30 minutes, right? Not a lot of pages when you really break it down or reverse engineer what it takes to accomplish reading 12 to 24 books a year. It's 10 pages in the morning, 30 days a month. And then at the end of the day, I could spend another 30 minutes reading. and read 10 pages in a different book. The reason why I like to read multiple books at once is because for me, that helps me expand my mental bandwidth to be able to recall and focus on more than one thing at a time and just be able to like expand how much information I can actually retain, my capacity for that basically. So yeah, 10 pages in the morning, 10 pages at night, that gets you through 600 pages in a month. Simple math. And it's also very consumable and applicable. So what I want to share with you today, now that you understand the concept of like how fast do I read, what's the most effective way to read books, how do I do it, that's how I do it. And there's a lot of ways to do it, but that's how I do it, okay? So I want to share with you a couple. Number one, personal development. These are some of my favorite personal development books of all time. I would say, where's the other one? Let me actually take out this stack real quick. I'll set this over here. These are two of my absolute favorite personal development books that I've read. So the first one, High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. Man, this guy is freaking amazing. The dude just got it figured out, as is Craig Ballantyne. We'll talk about this in a sec. But there are a lot of things in here that might seem obvious that you're not doing and a lot of things that you weren't doing. And here's the thing, when you're reading books, it's not necessarily a matter of have you heard that before or do you know something, but more so, it's going to be the context behind learning more about something you felt like you knew, giving you additional perspective to see things from a different angle. All right? The next thing is going to be the perfect day formula. A lot of how I structure my days nowadays is where I'm able to be a parent, take the kids to school, be with the kids after school, go do stuff with the kids, have my own hobbies, keep up with my health at a really high level, be able to run a multiple seven-figure a year business where we have over 15 full-time team members. That kind of stuff only happens when you have a really effective day-to-day structure so you don't burn out and so you can actually accomplish more in a day than most people can do in a month. The Perfect Day Formula with Craig Ballantyne is one of those books that helped me do that. Really, really good book. Okay, and they're also really quick reads actually, in comparison to like the next thing I'm going to share with you. Okay, let me put these back over here. So the next thing I'm going to share with you is going to be kind of like OCD whenever I move these books, make sure they're straight. Next two I'm going to share with you, these are very, very, very dense books. I will say, regardless of the concept I just shared with you, I could only read 10 pages at a time, and it took me an hour to read 10 pages in these books. So this first one is called Sleight of Mouth, or Sleight of Mouth. I don't know how people pronounce that, Sleight of Mouth. Robert Dilts wrote this book, and it's a book about psychology, neuro-linguistic programming. It is incredibly dense. Really goes through the background of NLP, which is great for sales. At the end of the day, sales is really just about understanding people. And if you could understand how the brain works and how people go through thought tracks, you'll be able to better navigate a conversation that creates really mutually beneficial outcomes for both people, because you both share now a new perspective that is like common ground. This is a phenomenal book to dive into that. Psycho-Cybernetics, another incredibly dense book. Again, about the way people think and how people operate through their thought track. Phenomenal book. Both of these, very, very good. Have stood the test of time. They've been around for a while. Put these back here. So these were really great when I was focusing on just being the best, absolute best sales rep that I could possibly be when I was selling full time. These were phenomenal books for that. The Perfect Day Formula and High Performance Habits. I was going through a phase of my life where it was important for me to be able to hold myself to a higher standard. I knew I was capable of more, and I knew that skill sets at the time weren't going to get me there anymore. So I needed to focus on how could I accomplish more in a day rather than just doing well at the things I'm doing during the day while I'm doing it. So if you want to be able to accomplish more in the day, structure, routine, habits, behaviors. Those are all the things that help you wield the sword better. The sword being your skill set, in which case for me was sales. Now, this was a different stage of my life these two that I'm gonna share with you right now were insanely powerful for me. So the stage of my life when I was focusing on how I can systemize my business. So when I went from first your skill set gets you into doing the thing you're doing. Next is optimizing, so doing the thing you're doing better. And then the next is systemizing, so how you could create a streamlined flow of the things you're doing that got you in the game in the first place. This allows you to scale. The definition of scale is to be able to add additional revenue or clientele with no additional fixed costs. You can only do that when you streamline. And these two books really helped me with that mindset. So the Amazon management system, so phenomenal. Ram Charan, I probably just butchered his name, but this is honestly, I mean, there's a lot of books here and they're very good books. You guys have probably already recognized a few, but this book is without question, undebatably the best book I've read of anything on this shelf. There is so much gold in this book. I mean, I don't know if it's like a $20, $40 book, but it was a pretty expensive book and I didn't understand why, and it took it 2 weeks to get to me. But now after I read it, I definitely get it. It's a short read, but it's one of those books where you can only get through a few pages at a time because you have so many epiphanies that you immediately do want to go implement and not do anything else. You won't want to read anymore after that. You'll keep reading a few pages at a time, and it's just the impact it's going to make in your business. I will say this book, I applied more from this book than any single book. Really good. Next is Always Day One. I'm not going to take a shot at how to pronounce Alex's last name on this book, but Always Day One is a phenomenal book about all the tech giants like Facebook, Amazon, Tesla, Google, Microsoft, how the tech giants were able to stay on top of the game and how they've been able to continue through every obstacle. Always Day One is actually an Amazon value and how they operate. It's one of their slogans in the company. But it basically where like every single day is day one. And I'm reading right now the Bezos Letters. And these are all the letters that that Jeff Bezos had written to their shareholders since he launched the company, Amazon. So anyway, super powerful stuff, but this shows how they're always able to keep the culture of that startup mindset and grow so fast. And this is the culture that I wanted to implement in our company at the sales agency. So this is a powerful book if you're trying to figure out how to keep momentum as you grow. Love this book. So if you're in a stage of life where you're trying to grow your company really quickly and be able to systemize and develop a powerful culture, these are really good books for that. Highly suggest these two. And I'll show you one more book and why I'm reading it. So this last one, so this, let me actually get under here. So this book right here, I want to give you guys the mindset of this. It's called The Ethical Slut. So the reason why I'm reading this book, it's a book about open relationships. So as it relates to like personal self and open-mindedness, it's so important, guys, to read books about topics that maybe you feel uneasy with, maybe you feel confused with, maybe you feel triggered by, and you definitely just don't understand, because that's going to limit you more than anything, is a closed mind, because then you won't see things. We all in life, for everyone watching this video, like, you have to understand the same opportunities, believe it or not, are passing you by every single day, just as they are somebody else. The only difference is that person has the open-mindedness and awareness to know it's passing them by, whereas most people just can't even see it happening. So that's usually what's going to stunt your progression track for moving faster or slower, is a level of awareness behind opportunity crossing your path. Some people just don't see it when it's happening. So this book about open relationships, not that I necessarily pursue open relationships, but somebody was talking to me once, and whenever they had brought up open relationships, I immediately got triggered by that. And then as I actually sat and I felt the feeling, I was like, why am I triggered by that? I have no reason to be triggered by that. So that led me to picking this book up, or actually just Googled open relationship books, and I found this. And the more I read about it, I now have context and understanding behind the topic. So now I actually have an opinion because I have the details behind the topic. If you have an opinion about something and you don't thoroughly understand it or take the time to thoroughly understand it, that's a closed mind. So anyway, that's why I'm reading this more, not necessarily looking at open relationships, more so understanding them. And then I'll actually be able to have a valid opinion. Last thing I'll share that I haven't gone through yet, but I love reading books like this, are books about the people that have done the damn thing. Whether it's biographies, autobiographies, stories about the people. So we got Elon Musk right here. I cannot wait to read that book. Howard Schultz wrote a book about Starbucks, the Microsoft story, and then Bezonomics. So these are all books about the titans of industry. These are all books about the titans of industry and how they were able to build what they've built and what they went through to build it. Same thing here with Netflix and how Netflix was built. So anyway, really, really exciting stuff. So now you guys know, what books do I read? What season of life should I read them? Which is going to be whatever you're currently prioritizing, right? Don't force a different book because somebody else recommends it to you. Focus on reading the books at your season of life, right? That you're currently prioritizing. So like right now, I don't prioritize sales books. So I'm beyond that point in my life where now I prioritize personal development and business growth. So focusing on better helping people achieve their best self so they can perform at their truest potential, even a level beyond what they believe they were capable of, because we're building really powerful teams and sales teams, which, by the way, if you're looking to build a sales team, I'll have resources down below. Check out our resources. But outside of that, this is what books to read, how fast to read them in a way that's applicable, and what books do I read, and how do I apply them. Now you guys know. So if you felt that was helpful, subscribe to this channel. We're gonna be putting out videos like this every week to be able to help you with either sales and becoming a better sales rep, better sales expert, building sales teams, building your business and business growth as a whole, or personal development. And we'll include resources down below. Some free, some not free, just depends on how quickly you want to shorten your learning curve on these specific topics. That's it for today. So I'll catch you on the next video. And again, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. You don't want to miss the next one.